Welcome to Speak for America. I'm Bill Spadea. It is great to have you with us on our brand new show. From the biggest national and international headlines to local stories from New Jersey to California and everywhere in between. We've got you covered, America. Let's get started tonight. President Trump said the United States will not invest any money in Iran, pushing back on rumors of a massive funding package tied to a new U.S.-Iran peace deal. Speaking on the sidelines of the G7 summit in France, Trump called the reports ridiculous while confirming a deal to end the Middle East conflict has been reached.
Well, it's been reported that it includes a $300 billion reconstruction fund funded by Gulf allies. That's false?
It's false. People, you can invest if you want. I mean, what am I going to do? Say nobody's ever allowed to invest? No, we're not investing. We're not putting up 10 cents. And people can decide to do that, but that's up to them. I mean, do you want me to say nobody's ever allowed to invest in a country? I'll say it with Egypt. Nobody's allowed to invest in Egypt. Am I supposed to say that?
I'm asking whether...
We are not investing in it, and we do not have a fund.
Are you asking Gulf countries?
No, I'm not. I'm not. If they do it, fine. But I would say they won't be doing it for a while until they find out the behavior. It's a behavior thing, but...
Certainly time will tell. We'll see what happens as this story continues. Trump also expressed frustration with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's handling of Lebanon and Hezbollah. Despite praising their overall relationship, the Iran agreement is expected to dominate discussions at the summit. Many pro-Israeli advocates slightly concerned that the Israelis were being looked at almost as the moral equivalent of Hezbollah. We're going to see how that develops as well. Now, President Trump announced he will hold a press conference and personally read every word of the Iran nuclear deal aloud.
I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word so that the press covers it accurately.
The president said he wants to ensure accurate coverage and plans to release and read the full document to the press. News of the deal has already sent oil prices sharply lower on global markets. According to both Washington and Tehran, the agreement is a memorandum of understanding. It has been confirmed by Pakistan and Qatar, the two countries that led mediation efforts. The deal extends the current ceasefire by 60 days, calls for the gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and creates a framework for future negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. However, experts caution that the most difficult work is still ahead. Joining us now is Richard Kulko. He is a retired U.S. Navy commander, Navy pilot, and former FBI special agent. Richard spent more than 20 years leading national security and intelligence operations. Rich, thanks for being with us. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Bill. Glad to be here.
So let's get right into it. Reportedly, dozens of commercial ships backed up, waiting to transit, waiting to get through the strait. So a two-part question on that. One, a lot of people upset that it took a war to get to the point where we were before the war. And, what does this really mean for domestic prices here in the U.S.?
Well, Bill, to start with, there's upwards of 2,000 ships that are jammed up in the strait right now.
Wow.
And on a good day, 100 to 125 ships can transit that very small body of water. And these are not good days. There's still the possibility of mines that are there. There's got to be some mine sweeping that's got to be done. By some bad timing back in September, the U.S. Navy had a fleet of minesweepers in the region. They got decommissioned. So 6 months ago, or now 8 months ago, the minesweepers are gone. So the U.S. is moving to a new technology, hasn't been fully tested yet. So we may get some help from some other nations to pull the mines out. The ships want to go. There could be a race to the strait there. That'll be interesting to see. Somebody's got to control that. But a lot of the insurance companies for those shippers are not going to want their boats to go through until they're positive that it's clear and safe. And I'm still concerned about Iran. There could be rogue elements in their military that have control of some drones, missiles, even shore batteries of artillery that can do damage from the shore there.
Rich, let's talk about that. At the outset of this, the president right away saying we've decimated them, we've decapitated them, we've destroyed their military. But here we are months in. We've got more than a dozen of our military personnel dead and billions of dollars into this. And it's unclear to a lot of folks observing this who we're actually negotiating with. If you, given the fact that you've got the Revolutionary Guard, it's a fractured group at best. So, what is to stop a rogue element from saying there's no peace on our end?
Well, that's why the U.S. Navy and other elements of the U.S. military will have to maintain a presence there, overhead surveillance, capability to respond. This is not a light switch where they sign that paper on Friday and everything's over and we're back to where we were, whatever, 6 months ago. It's not going to be that quick. It's going to take some time, some coordination, and some preparation.
Do you think America got what it wanted out of this? Was this a good or a bad thing for the United States?
Well, I don't speak for the United States, but from my perspective, I think we were probably in decent shape prior to this. I'm not sure that this will all work out great, but we are where we're at. We have to support the U.S. military for what they're doing, 100%. Once you're in it, you got to be in it to win it, and that's where we're at now. So the president has clearly said there will be no nuclear weapon. Check. Strait of Hormuz needs to be open. Check. And I think if they can find a way for Iran to not be funding their proxies, if Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis no longer getting a paycheck, in the end, there could be a better position in the Middle East there with hopefully less fighting.
Let's talk about Hezbollah for a moment. There was that exchange between President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, where essentially Trump's like, "What are you doing? What are you, And he basically, according to many, it looked like it was Israel and Hezbollah as moral equivalents, and it was just about stopping the fighting. Where the Israeli response, I think, was accurate in saying, "Look, we're under fire from these guys. Hezbollah has been coming after us for decades. This is not something that we can just turn a switch and say, okay, we're not going to fight." And prior agreements have been violated by Hezbollah. They've moved way further south than they were ever supposed to under previous agreements. So how do you reconcile this? And what is to stop Hezbollah from carrying out continued attacks on Israel?
Well, strengthening the Lebanese government and Iran telling them to stop and to stop funding their ability to fight. Believe they still have a good arsenal of missiles. Fortunately, those missiles have not been overly effective for Israel's sake. But that phrase that we've heard, and I actually believe it. If Israel puts their weapons down, they're going to get attacked and killed. But if the other guys put their weapons down, there will be peace. So hopefully, they'll stop shooting missiles into Israel and things will get better.
Let's talk about the enriched uranium. Again, it seems like for over the last few weeks, we're getting two sides of this story. On one side, you've got the Revolutionary Guard allegedly burying the uranium to keep it away from us. On the other side, we're saying all the uranium is already buried because we've decimated their infrastructure and it's thousands of tons of rubble covering this. Is the truth somewhere in between? It seems to me that everything that we've done, they shouldn't be able to do anything in terms of development other than buying it from a country like China for 10 or 15 years.
I agree with you. The truth is probably somewhere in between, but their scientists are probably gone. Their infrastructure to develop the weapons is gone. If the stuff is buried, it's buried. But I don't see them being able to reconstitute a program in short order. They're going to probably concentrate on trying to get some airplanes back into their Air Force, some ships back into their Navy. And I just don't see them turning around in short term and trying to build a nuclear weapon. They're just asking for more trouble.
Given your military career, I just want to wrap up on this, that how difficult is it for our guys in uniform, especially the officer corps, the leadership, when you've got political unrest at home, where you've got 75% of the folks saying, whoa, 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 we don't want to see troops on the ground. We're very concerned about this. I saw a poll the other day that lopsided more than half the country, very skeptical of this deal and unhappy that we got involved in the first place. Does that make it more difficult? Do we have flashbacks from Vietnam where the political will was simply not there?
I hear you. I've seen some of these polls myself. You're 100% right. Again, everybody's skeptical. Not everybody. Many people are skeptical of the deal, skeptical of the war. But the one of the highest levels of support among government entities still remains the military. So the polls that are being taken, the American people are still supporting our men and women in uniform. So that's a good thing. I know that some of the generals and admirals are certainly tiptoeing because they've been fired left and right for whatever reason. But I served in uniform. I have children in the military. My father did. I think they're okay. I think they have the support of the country, and I hope that remains so.
I'm glad you said that. I do agree with you that the support is split. Political support is very different than supporting our men and women who are in harm's way. And God bless them all. Commander, thank you. Great to talk to you. Richard Kolko, we'll hopefully have you back on soon. Take care.
Hope so, Bill. Have a good day.
You too. Federal prosecutors have released new details about 5 men accused of plotting a mass casualty attack on President Trump and other high-profile officials during the UFC event at the White House. Authorities say the suspects plan to use explosive-laden drones to strike the venue, then ambushing fleeing targets, including the president, with sniper teams positioned at an evacuation point. The 5 men were arrested last month in a multi-state sweep. Los Angeles police shot and killed a family dog in Canoga Park after responding to a call about a screaming woman. Officers say the dog rushed at them when they arrived. The woman was actually celebrating the New York Knicks NBA championship win with her family, and the dog, a golden retriever mix named Jameson, was wearing a Knicks shirt. The shooting is under review. Guys, when the police are called, keep your dogs on a leash. Police officers have to make a split-second decision, and a dog rushing at them is not a good thing. So just be mindful. A new study ranks downtown Los Angeles as one of the least vibrant downtowns in the entire world and one of the most dangerous. According to the Gensler City Pulse survey, only about 2/3 of people described downtown Los Angeles as vibrant compared to 80% for New York and Chicago. The survey placed downtown LA near the bottom for being cool, citing an exodus of businesses, workers, and residents that has left the area struggling. Well, it's no surprise. Rising crime, out of control taxation, regulation. California is doing everything they can to drive people out. Hopefully, we're going to see an election soon that will put a reverse on their current policies. Up next, what's driving higher prices at the Jersey Shore for summer rentals? Jersey Shore realtor James Ward weighs in. And now let's check in with one of our great sponsors. Larry Steinhaus has his financial tip of the week, real world money advice you were never taught in school, from investing and passive income to protecting your wealth and making smarter financial moves. All right, Larry, what do you have for us this week?
Bill, have you ever noticed that when a company goes public, everyone acts like it's the greatest opportunity since sliced bread? The headlines are everywhere. The financial media is excited. Social media is buzzing. Your neighbor suddenly becomes a stock market expert. And that's exactly why I generally tell people to stay away from IPOs. An IPO, or an initial public offering, is when a public company sells shares to the public for the first time. It sounds exciting, right? The problem is that by the time most investors buy the stock, the people who know the company best, the founders, venture capital firms, and early investors are often already sitting on huge profits. Think about it. If a company has been growing for years, who got the biggest gains? The people who owned it before it became public. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most IPOs have a lockup period. Usually it's around 6 months, sometimes even up to 2 years. And during that time, insiders can't sell their shares. But when that lockup period expires, suddenly millions of additional shares can hit the market. More supply often means lower prices. That's why you'll frequently see IPO stocks surge on excitement and then drift lower months later as reality sets in and the insiders start selling. Are there exceptions? Yeah, absolutely. Some companies become huge long-term winners, but the statistics show that many IPOs underperform the broader market after the initial hype wears off. So instead of rushing to buy the newest shiny stock on day one, consider waiting 6 months to a year, let the excitement settle down, let the company prove itself as a public company, then decide it deserves your investment dollars. Remember, investing isn't about being first, it's about being right. I'm Larry Steinhaus. I am the founder of Investor Schooling and the manager of the Sultan Income Fund. Learn more about investing, more about stock options, and building wealth at investorschooling.com. A real quick disclosure, this segment is for educational, informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Always consult your financial, tax, and legal advisors before making investment decisions. Thanks, Bill. This is Larry Steinhaus.
Always good to see you, Larry. Thank you. Larry Steinhaus. Visit investorschooling.com for more. Welcome back to Speak for America. I am Bill Spadea. A Florida couple who discovered they received the wrong embryo during IVF will retain permanent custody of the child. Stephen Mills and Tiffany Score reached a custody agreement last week with the baby's biological parents. The couple, who are both white, realized something was wrong after their daughter Shay appeared to be of a different race. Genetic testing later confirmed she was not biologically related to them. The details of the agreement remain private. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer has sued TikTok, accusing the platform of violating state law by allowing children under 14 to create accounts and exposing them to harmful, violent, and sexual content. Uthmeyer says TikTok knowingly deceives parents and puts profits over children's safety. The lawsuit seeks court-ordered changes and financial damages. TikTok says it is complying with the law by suspending underage accounts in Florida and will defend its safety record. A teenager was struck and killed by a UPS truck while riding an e-bike Tuesday morning in Southampton, New Jersey. State police say the crash happened around 10:45 a.m. at 3 Tranquility Court, easy for me to say. The victim has been identified as Chase Sudano, a student at St. Augustine High School. UPS says it is heartbroken by the tragedy and is fully cooperating with the ongoing investigation. Guys, like anything, if you got kids on bikes, there are cars, there are trucks. I mean, this is just a basic safety issue. I think too often we send our kids out there and many parents may think there are not consequences. It is a dangerous world, even riding an e-bike in your neighborhood. Jersey City police say 6 people, including 3 teenagers, were injured in a targeted acid attack Monday night. Investigators say they believe individuals in a vehicle threw sulfuric acid at the victims who were outside in a residential neighborhood. A juvenile has been arrested in connection with the incident. The victims suffered burns and were taken to the hospital. Wow, what a world we live in. Summer vacations at the Jersey Shore. Wow, have they gotten expensive. New research from Affinity Federal Credit Union shows costs are up about 11% from last year, with week-long rental prices surging a staggering 53%. Experts warn that higher prices are pushing some families toward risky deals, leading to more vacation rental scams on sites like Craigslist and Facebook and others. Authorities urge travelers to verify listings, avoid off-platform payments, and check property ownership before booking. So what's driving the increases, and how can families protect themselves from scams while still finding affordable options to enjoy the Jersey Shore summer? Joining us now, James Ward, a licensed real estate broker and owner of Shore Points Vacations. James, appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right, so let's talk about it, James. I'm hearing a lot of conflicting reports. Maybe you can get us to the truth. A lot of people saying way overpriced, way too expensive, people aren't going, and a lot of the restaurants are empty, and this is a problem. Others are saying, I still can't find a place. Even at these prices, they're full. What's really happening at the Shore?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. All that's happening somehow. I do think it's kind of a misconception I'm hearing more of this year. For whatever reason, it's coming to a head. But the Jersey Shore rental prices, they haven't like suddenly just become more expensive. Just because people are getting greedy. It goes back to Sandy. It's like 15 years of a perfect storm of things kind of coming to a head that's led to it.
So what are you seeing? I mean, as I can tell you, it's got to be hard as a licensed real estate professional. I was a broker for many, many years, still am in a number of states. And it seems to me that I go back 20 years, I was calling a real estate company to rent at the Shore. Now, a lot of folks are just going to VRBO or Airbnb or sometimes direct. Are you seeing a change in the calls that you're getting?
Big time. I've been doing this since 2001. Back then we had a Rolodex and people showed up President's Day weekend, you might remember, and they'd line up and we'd show them the houses. They would see them and then they would rent them. Look, it's obviously much different now. You've got, the online portals like Vrbo, Airbnb. You've got credit cards in the mix, so people are able to spend more and pay it off over time. So that's had an effect on the pricing. And it's just changed the whole dynamic of how people view the Jersey Shore. I think one consequence we're seeing there is that, you could be looking at, Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, for example, in 1 minute, and then the next you're, at cruises out of Bayonne, or you're looking at airfare at someplace else that's trying to capture the same consumer.
So what are you seeing a younger crowd looking, or do you have those standby customers who are kind of getting older with you? What are you seeing?
We've got, I mean, knock on wood, I've got families that have been coming for multiple generations, and we still see a lot of that. Mostly it's still family oriented folks that are coming in that are spending this kind of money. I think what people need to understand is that, you know, the product is totally different thanks to Sandy, thanks to COVID. The housing stock was increased. The smaller beach cottages were kind of knocked down. They were sold off. They've been renovated.
They're all
and
gone.
People aren't rebuilding.
What about these higher prices? Do you think some of this is just because the cost of living in New Jersey is so damn high? I mean, the real estate tax is out of control, insurance costs out of control. So is it the fault of the sellers or the those that are renting their homes out there saying, look, it's expensive to make their nut every year. They got to charge that much more for the weekly rental.
They have to, and they can only really work with the rentable weeks that they have. And in New Jersey, it's really July and August. You got to figure when the kids are out of school. That's late June, all July, all August, and that's the rentable weeks you have. So when you pay $900,000 for a house instead of $600,000 a house, you're not going to be able to have a $3,000 weekly rental available for somebody. It's going to be double that, and that's where we're seeing a big kind of bifurcation in what the rental properties are that are available to people. You've got on one hand those smaller type of houses that are becoming harder to rent and the prices are actually coming down. And then you've got the more expensive 6+ bedroom house with a pool. And you've got 3 families that are coming in together and they're taking that house and they're actually saving instead of renting a smaller house without those amenities.
That's an interesting thought. What about the last minute guy? I remember years ago when my kids were little, my wife Jody and I would say, hey, let's take 4 days at Labor Day before the kids are back in school. And I would get last minute deals. This is going back, 15 years or so. But are they available? And what about shoulder season, local summer? Are they the better deals?
I mean, they used to be. I mean, you're going to get, if the house is $10,000 in July, it's likely $5,000 or $6,000 in June. And look at the weather we've had recently for a bargain price. Yeah. But it's becoming harder to rent the shoulder seasons for whatever reason. Most people are looking to do shorter than 1 week, and a lot of towns have imposed some rental restrictions with minimums required now. And that's really kind of cut the legs out of the industry. And that's also why you're seeing people trying to make up for a lot of the lost income with their July and August weeks that they have. But to answer your question, yes, the last minute things are still always available. We just had somebody come in yesterday. They got nearly 2 weeks for $11,000 on a massive house with a pool right across from the beach and boardwalk. And he did the same thing last year. People know to do that. You'll find a deal if you wait.
Yeah, negotiation and working a deal still reigns supreme. I love it. James Ward,
work with a professional. That's the best advice I can give real quick.
I was going to say, James, give me that tip for folks, because one thing, if you work with a licensed real estate broker, you go to a guy like you at least know your confidence is 100% that you're getting an actual property that exists with an owner that has taken care of that property.
Every week we get a call. Somebody, they're at the door and no one's there. The code just doesn't work. And, their $1,000 weekly rental doesn't exist. And we try to scramble to help them. But, that won't happen if you're working with somebody reputable, or even, if you're on the major platforms, you're probably okay. But then you're paying the taxes and the fees. You'll save a lot and you'll have the security if you work with someone like me.
There you go. I love to hear it. James Ward, go get him. Owner of Short Points Vacations. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Bill.
Another ICE agent almost run down by a car, this time in New Jersey. Are sanctuary policies fueling this behavior? I think you know the answer to that. Up next, we're joined by New Jersey Assemblyman Greg Meyer. Now, a word from another great sponsor, Dr. Adriana Lombardi's Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center of New Jersey.
Here at the Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center, we really love to get to know our patients. We want to work together with them to reach their goals and make them feel the most comfortable they can. I was planning to open the Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center. I wanted a personalized approach to medicine. I felt that medicine was getting commercialized in general, and I had a vision of opening my own practice, including my sister who's a medical esthetician, and being able to treat the patient as a whole. We offer cosmetic procedures, we offer skin cancer surgery, we have general dermatology visits, and different types of non-invasive aesthetic treatments all under one roof.
I focus on non-invasive treatments that help better your skin health and help you also feel good from the inside out.
I try to approach each patient like a family member. I really love to get to know my patients. We have their best interests in mind, so we want to hold their hand on their journey of feeling better about themselves or getting the right treatment done.
Whether it's something non-invasive to something more invasive, we want to make sure that we're thoroughly explaining what the procedure entails, and we're also managing their expectations so we are both on the same page when it comes to results.
Here in the office, I made a promise that we would always use the highest end technology, the most innovative technology and techniques for our patients.
That goes from cool sculpting to Cutera's microneedling device that also is for skin tightening. And then we have different types of lasers by the Luminous that also deliver great results for pigmentation or scars, wrinkles, anything you're looking to address.
After the procedures in our office, our patients often feel so much better about themselves, and people go about life a little bit differently when you have more confidence. So I really feel like it's so important to be the best version of yourself.
Dr. Adriana Lombardi, Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center of New Jersey. Visit their website at sccsnj.com. Welcome back to Speak for America. I am your host, Bill Spadea. St. Paul, Minnesota. Law enforcement, well, they're not putting up with any nonsense, deploying chemical irritants during a protest outside the federal courthouse. The demonstration followed new federal charges against 15 people accused of interfering with immigration enforcement in the Twin Cities. U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen says those charged, allegedly linked to Direct Action Minnesota, face counts including conspiracy to assault federal officers. ICE and Florida officials are relocating detainees from Alligator Alcatraz immigration facility as hurricane season begins. A spokesperson said the transfers from the Collier County Detention Center are being made for the safety of those being held there. Governor Ron DeSantis says the facility was never intended to be a permanent fixture and that its future depends on decisions by the federal government. A man who has been living in Barnegat Township, New Jersey, facing federal charges under authorities saying he assaulted an ICE officer with his van. U.S. Attorney Robert Frazier announced that 39-year-old Eduardo Cruz Garcia is charged with assaulting a federal officer and inflicting bodily injury. This all happened on June 15th. ICE agents stopped Garcia's white van because he is in the country illegally. Officials say he refused to comply, then drove forward, striking an agent and pinning him between vehicles. The agent suffered injuries to his thigh and shin, requiring hospital treatment. Garcia, for his part, fled the scene, striking another ICE vehicle. He appeared in Trenton federal court yesterday and was ordered detained. The charges carry up to 20 years in prison. Now, it's important to note that he had taken himself to the hospital because he'd been shot by one of the agents who was defending their fellow agent as Garcia tried to run him down. New Jersey's sanctuary policies are under intense scrutiny. Honestly, they have been for years, and rightfully so. The incident has renewed calls to repeal New Jersey's Immigrant Trust Directive, something we've been yelling about for a decade now, which restricts local police from assisting federal immigration authorities. Remember, this started under Governor Phil Murphy, the last Democrat governor, who signed the Immigrant Trust Directive as an executive order. Now it was turned into law by the majority Democrats in the Trenton legislature and signed by the governor. Assemblyman Greg Meyer, whose district includes the area where this happened and who has led efforts to end the state's sanctuary policies, joins me now. Assemblyman, always good to see you. How you doing, Greg?
Great to see you, Bill. Very good.
So you were outspoken immediately on this, and I have to tell you, I really appreciate it. I mean, this one hits home, right? In Manahawkin, Stafford Township. So walk us through what you know happened on Monday and why there was a reported disconnect between local police and ICE.
Yeah. So essentially, what happened was that there was a an ICE officer was trying to apprehend a suspect. And my understanding is that the suspect, in trying to get away, hit the agent. The agent was down, and police were alerted to that. They responded to the scene. They attended to him. They got him to the local hospital. They took care of traffic in the area. I've also learned that ICE did alert them. They put a call into dispatch just to say that they'll be in town. And as you know, that directive that you just mentioned, which is now law, prohibits the local police from coordinating with ICE effectively in any way or immigration-related operations. So again, you see that things like what just happened here in Manahawkin, and what you've seen out in Minnesota and other places, sanctuary jurisdictions, I believe could really be avoided if we can have that coordination between ICE and our state and local police.
So let's talk about that. I mean, first of all, we've said this. You and I have had this conversation offline as well, and over the years that this has put law enforcement lives in danger because it's the, where seconds count. You've got law enforcement agents wondering whether they're going to be in trouble. The next viral video, the next person prosecuted or gone after by the state attorney general. So. What's the feeling? And I think it also is important to say you were out in front on this, that the Stafford Township, the local law enforcement did not stand down. That's a very important thing to note here. They did as much as they could. And when a separate crime is committed, whether it's flying through the streets, speeding, etc., law enforcement will react. This is more of an issue of the lack of coordination before it happens. So you don't know till the last minute that something's going down in your town. And this is a problem. What are you hearing offline from a lot of local leaders? How difficult has their job become with this directive?
It's become very difficult. And I forgot to mention earlier, they also did alert the police. Stafford police did also alert all the neighboring towns that the suspect was on the loose. So, but yeah, what I'm hearing is it's very difficult for them to operate. I mean, people want immigration enforcement. People want our laws enforced. And you know how it goes. If you don't like the law, change the law. Well, certain, we'll call them illegal alien sympathizers, have been trying to do that for decades, and they haven't been able to. So the law is the law. We have to have control of our borders. We have to know who's in our country, and people that don't belong here need to be removed. How else do you do that without immigration control enforcement?
It's interesting. You say illegal aliens. I have been hammering this point home for a long time now that when the news started saying undocumented asylum seekers, they softened it. Meanwhile, you look at Delaney Hall, you got guys accused of murder and rape and child trafficking and and distribution of narcotics, etc. I mean, these are some bad guys. And this suspect, Garcia, has already received his final deportation order. So that means he's already gone through the process, and the judges are like, we're done with this guy. Get this guy out of here. What do you expect to happen? And when you're talking to your constituents, because part of me says, I don't know if we should put him up and house him, feed him, and let him watch cable for 20 years under our jurisdiction. Why not throw him out and make sure he stays in prison there?
That's a great question. And interesting enough, Monday morning when this happened, I was actually taking a tour of New Jersey State Prison, seeing some of those people that are incarcerated for 20 years, lifers, people like that. So why should we have to pay to house these people that never should have been here in the first place? It's totally baffling to me that people think it's okay to have an invasion of tens of millions of people into this country, and we're just going to let them stay. It doesn't make any sense. And now that we're taking control for the first time, I think in our lifetimes on this scale, to actually remove these people are up in arms over this. And Delaney Hall, like you mentioned, is a great point because they're putting them somewhere while they're either awaiting trial, while they leave on their own. And those terrible people that you mentioned, the rapists, the murderers, they're there too. We want to keep our society safe. And obviously, if there's people in those places that are innocent, which is possible, they should be kept safe from those types of bad people as well. But we have to minimize the problem. That means by minimizing the amount of illegal aliens that are in this country.
Is the Republican caucus united on pushing back on the governor on this? And is there a possibility, because I floated this idea, I called out the PBA today and said, look, I'd love to see the state PBA sue the governor on behalf of local law enforcement and say, you're putting our guys in jeopardy. Is there a possibility that Stafford Township or Manahawkin, one of these places, will bring a lawsuit to get rid of this ridiculous law that's potentially going to get somebody killed.
I would say it's a possibility, and I do believe that the caucus is united on this. Some of us are more vocal about it than others, and that's what happens with a lot of issues. But I don't see any sympathizers in our caucus or people that want to grant mass amnesty or anything like that. As far as the legal question goes, I think that would be great if a lot of towns and counties got together and actually sued to be able to get a more sensible policy. And we've reached out to the Attorney General's office for that to try to get something better, at least within the framework of the law. But I have introduced several bills to repeal all of these ridiculous, about 20, in fact, to try to dismantle the sanctuary state.
You are one of the good guys, Greg Meyer, no doubt about it. Assemblyman, thank you. Always good to talk to you. We'll see you out and about soon, and keep me posted. And if one of these towns in your district decides to bring a lawsuit, I'd love to talk to the lawyer across our platforms, here and on the radio, et cetera, and really shine a light on this, because I think this is our opportunity to get this ridiculous law off the books. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate it.
You got it. Assemblyman Greg Meyer. Also interesting, former mayor. Greg really understands this from the ground up, and just what a horrible position our law enforcement are put in. And let me be clear. This is not to disparage my friends at the New Jersey State PBA. This is to say, guys, this is your opportunity. On behalf of all the law enforcement members across this state who are suffering and struggling and knowing that they're going potentially into harm's way, let's face it, that ICE agent could have been killed being pinned between cars, gunfire erupting on a street in a local community. This has got to stop. And the only way we stop this is to make sure that all law enforcement is coordinating and cooperating and talking to each other. Did we learn nothing from 9/11? So I'll put that call out there. Any town that wants to step up, we'll give you the platform, and would be happy to make some introductions to attorneys who would take this case right to the governor's office. Turning to media, listen to this. Fox Corporation is acquiring Roku for $22 billion. The deal combines Fox's live sports, news, and entertainment with the top U.S. streaming platform, creating the third largest player in American television by viewing share. The transaction is expected to close in the first half of 2027. It's a lot of money. Vice President J.D. Vance says he was pleasantly surprised by his appearance on The View while promoting his new spiritual memoir, Communion. Vance told Fox's Gutfeld he expected the host to be absolutely vicious, but found them only a little bit vicious. Vance joked that he expected Sonny Hostin to call him a racist, but it was actually Whoopi Goldberg who called him a racist during the exchange. Vance highlighted a rare compliment from Joy Behar, who told him he was pretty good for a Republican. If a former CNN news anchor live streams for 11 hours, does anybody care? Does anybody watch? A breathless Jim Acosta live streamed on YouTube as workers removed President Trump's name from the Kennedy Center. Acosta compared the moment to the fall of the Berlin Wall. Wow. Calling it a stand against tyranny. His dramatic coverage quickly went viral and, not shockingly, drew widespread online mockery. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stepping back from celebrity political activism. In a new Esquire interview, the actor said he's keeping his political views private to focus on creating art and storytelling. Johnson, who endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, said he won't endorse a candidate again because it caused too much division in the country. Boy, he thinks a lot of himself. Up next, what Democrats want to ban the National Guard from protecting polling locations during the November election. Welcome back to Speak for America. I am Bill Spadea. We'll take you to Denver next. A Denver teacher fired after an investigation found she allegedly asked students to kiss classmates during classroom skits. French teacher Jennifer Hunka was terminated by the Denver Public School Board in a unanimous 7-0 vote last month. Students reported feeling pressured to participate because the skits counted toward their grades, with some saying they were directed to kiss same-sex classmates and it made them feel uncomfortable. I mean, anyway, Unbelievable. It's a good thing she got fired. Republican senators on the Armed Services Committee have blocked the Democrats' push to strengthen bans on using federal troops at polling stations or seizing ballots and voting machines. Democrats, including Senators Alyssa Slotkin and Richard Blumenthal, called the party line vote deeply alarming, warning it could signal plans for illegal military interference in this fall's midterm elections. Can you imagine? Well, it seems the Democrats, the last thing they want to do is keep our elections secure and make sure every legal vote counts. Unbelievable. In New Jersey, a proposal that sounded like absolute lunacy just months ago is now legislation. State Senator Joe Cryan, a Democrat from Union County, has introduced a bill labeled S-4313, which would make it a state crime to deploy the military National Guard to New Jersey polling places this November. Cryan says the bill responds directly to recent comments from President Trump, including exemptions, though, for service members to go vote. Oh, well, thank you, Senator. Joining us now with reaction is New York Republican strategist Manny Alessandro. Manny, always good to talk to you. I feel like you have a great perspective on this. I can almost hear your eyes rolling when you hear me talk about this issue. So Democrats are framing it as evidence that President Trump and the Republicans are going to use the military to interfere with the midterms. What do you think?
This is completely insane. We need some control over our elections, right? I mean, look at what happened in California. We still don't know what happened, right? We have this system where we utilize the mails with mail-in ballots, right? So although election law is state law, so it's really one of these things where there's a division between the federal government and the state government here, right? Because the election law is enacted by the state in terms of how many signatures you need to get on a ballot, how you petition, what the ballot looks like, election date, if it's early election, and that kind of thing. But mail-in voting now gets quite interesting because you're utilizing the federal system of the mails. And you have issues here whereby how does the ballot get to the poll site, right? That you drop it off? Is there security around it? Whatever. So you have one aspect of the federal government intervening over elections, and they have justification and rationale legally to do so.
That's interesting.
Secondly, with regard to the National Guard, we need to provide security. Absolutely. There could be some type of threats with regard to voting and poll sites. People could be threatened to not vote, or people could be threatened to vote in a certain way. Alternatively, you have all these allegations, if you think about it, what's going on recently in California, where there's been reports that homeless people have been paid to vote a certain way, right? I mean, think about that. So no one should be disenfranchised, Bill, right? I get that. If you're homeless and you want to vote, you should be able to vote. You identify a certain facility that you live at or live nearby to.
Yeah, if you're registered,
and you disclose that. If you're registered, and then you vote. But if you're not registered, you don't just fill out a ballot because no one knows who you are. Can you just put a fake name, a fictitious name on the ballot, potentially? What controls do we have in place? So what President Trump is trying to do with the SAVE Act in terms of voter identification, now let's broaden this out outside New Jersey. If you look at Western countries, they pretty much all have voter identification requirements. I think Canada, if I'm not mistaken, you need 2 forms of photo ID to vote in Canada. Our neighbor to the north,
Canada,
right? But we can't do that here. I don't understand how making voting more transparent, bringing integrity to the voting process is either racist, disenfranchises people. I don't understand. Further, when you walk into a federal building or any building, you have to show ID, right? You show ID and you have an ID and you just take it out of your pocket, you show it. You're not discriminated against to show that ID, but somehow, some way, now you have to show that same ID that you showed to get into a building, to go into a school or a polling site to vote is now racist, discriminatory, and you're disenfranchised. None of it makes any sense.
No, and Manny, I mean, I go back to 2020 and we literally watched in blue cities and blue states, the windows being boarded up and covered so you couldn't see what was going on, votes being dropped off by truck at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's ridiculous. Bullet votes where you have thousands of votes only cast for one candidate, down ballot left alone, mail-in ballots without creases. So clearly a lot of shenanigans went on in 2020. 81 million votes for Joe Biden. Anyway, it seems the Democrats are just standing in the way. I think it has a lot to do with also the push for the sanctuary states, where we know states like New Jersey, we've had some Republicans that had pushed for illegals to get driver's licenses, which we know in states like New Jersey leads directly to them being registered to vote. We've actually had illegal aliens in New Jersey asking to be taken off the voter rolls. That's how bad the problem is. But Democrats look at this as anything goes. And the minute we try to put law and order in, National Guard's the bad guy, cops are the bad guy. Now, President Trump said he would do, quote, anything necessary for honest elections. And he did float the ideas of the National Guard. So what are your thoughts on the need for the National Guard? I mean, has it come to that?
I think it has, unfortunately. I mean, all your points are valid, right? If you look at what happened in past elections, people are still disputing the results. And as I mentioned earlier, look at California. It happened a couple of weeks ago. People are still uncertain what happened there. So I think, again, President Trump has to come in somehow, some way with the heavy hand of the law. And I think we need to deploy National Guard troops to make sure that there's no shenanigans going on. Why? Because we can't trust these states, right? To your point as well, we had the same thing in New York where you had this motor voter registration. So you went to get a driver's license and concurrently you registered to vote. Now, you probably didn't show any proof of citizenship when you got your driver's license, but now you have a driver's license that's a valid form of identification to vote. So technically someone who should not be authorized to vote is now a registered voter. So this is just extremely problematic, and we need to get control of it because right now I think we just take voting for granted, right? It's a very sacred privilege that we have and a right, but at the same time, we treat it kind of very flippantly. If you take something seriously, Bill, if you take something seriously, you show up. You should show up on one day between a certain period of time. Work gives you time off to vote. School gives you time off to vote. Give me a break.
Not have it as a national holiday. I think the only way out of this is a national re-registration. Every single person has to re-register, prove they're actually an American to do it. You know, it's interesting, Manny, we'll have to leave it here, but to me, you hear a lot of people on the right especially saying, you can't vote your way out of this crisis. And I think a lot of the innuendo, the assertion they're saying is maybe there's going to be a revolution. I don't think we're that far down the road. I think you can actually employ a strategy of suing our way out of this and making sure that we drag these blue states into court and force them to actually follow the laws that are on the books. I don't know why this is so challenging. So we're going to see what happens. But Manny Alessandro, it is always good to see you. I will see you back here soon.
Thanks for having me on. Good to see you, Bill.
Thanks, Manny. Chick-fil-A has been knocked from the top spot in the latest American Customer Satisfaction Index for fast food chains. The chicken chain has led the ranking last year, dropped to second place this time around. You know who took the high score? Jersey Mike's. That's right, a score of 84 out of 100, edging Chick-fil-A's 83. It marks the first time in more than a decade that a new chain has led the quick service restaurant category. All right, the political left's attempt to counter-program President Trump's UFC event at the White House lawn. Man, did that fall flat Sunday night. A star-studded concert in New York City, hosted by Jane Fonda, featuring Bette Midler performing an anti-ICE version of All You Fascists Bound to Lose. Take a listen.
All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Hey there, all you fascists. Let me put you straight. When you come for the rest of us, we'll fight you at the gate.
Oh boy, the show got a little fiery with speeches from Joy Reid and children's entertainer. Well, that's what she calls herself. Ms. Rachel. The 3-hour event drew widespread online mockery, with critics calling the aging activists completely out of touch. And you can't make this up. President Trump declares himself the boss at the G7 summit.
Hello, I'm the boss.
Ah, yes, President Trump. This is well-known Trump humor. But remember the old saying, there's a grain of truth in every joke. Guys, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed spending some time with you today. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week on continuing to speak for America. Thanks for watching. I am Bill Spadea. Remember, keep the faith, keep the fight. See you next time.